I'm Calvin Anderson. Been living in Norco for 75 years. When I heard they was making a video for our 100-year anniversary for the town of Norco, I kind of brought up, we need to talk about some of the places that's no longer here. Right here in front of Shell, where these grass hedges are, was a Shell gas station, the first one in Norco. It was run by Mr. T. Roger for many, many years, and when he passed on, Claude Bro took it over for many years, but it's no longer with us, it's gone. Right here you look at this building. This is the original building, but this was Bill's Dollar Store. Stayed here for many, many years for all your little stuff you want, but it's no longer here. Way back in time, what we had to do for entertainment in Norco was go to the movie theater. This was where the Royal Theater was. Just an ordinary movie theater, had shows on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights and everything, and all the kids came here. It was a fun place to come watch movies in the olden days. Even though this building's painted nice and blue today, back in the early years, this was a Shell station. When they closed the Shell station up on the River Road, Romeo Dufresne opened a Shell station right here. He did minor car repairs. He gave out brake tags on cars and all that. Romeo Dufresne, good guy. Right back here on Good Hope Street, right next to RT&L, there used to have a car wash, a manual car wash, where you had to get out with the hose and wash your car. And they had about six or eight stalls to wash your car. And right next door was a laundromat, where they had the washers and dryers where you could come in and wash your clothes, if your machines were broken, right here on Good Hope Street. And this gray-looking building, back in time, we're still on Good Hope Street, this was the location of Rodrigue Dodge, one of the 3 new car dealerships that was ever in the town of Norco. It was run by Bruce Rodrigue, and he sold new Dodges and had his own service department. Up here on the Airline Highway, this is a place now everybody known as the Sportsman, okay, where you buy all your fishing stuff, paraphernalia and everything. Well, before it was the Sportsman, it was a restaurant. It was called the Skylight Restaurant, one of the very few restaurants on the Airline Highway in Norco. And it was there for a couple of years until the Sportsman took over. This building up on the Airline Highway, it's just still standing, was the original location of Lusto Ford, one of the 3 car dealerships that was in the town of Norco. It was run by the Lusto family for many, many years, and we will get to it later on. They built a new location on the Airline Highway, which we'll get to, and we'll show you that building. It still exists also. But this was Lusto Ford, and when they moved over, it then became Harold Email Service Center, where he serviced cars and sold auto parts and all that for many, many years. And you see what it is today. Here on Good Hope Street, this is Gilry's Body Shop. It opened in the 70s or something. It's been here, it was a lot bigger. It was as AJ and Ronnie opened it, but it's been a site that's part of Norco history for a long time, and it's still in business today. We're here on Good Hope Street, and today this is the Norco Civic Association Hall, which they keep it up. But this hall has a little bit of history. As I take you back in time, it was originally built to be the VFW Memorial Hall. And that went on, and many years after that, they actually sold it or leased it to the sheriff's office. So it was a St. Charles Parish sheriff's substation or something for many, many, many years. And now it's the Norco Civic Association Hall. Now we're on 3rd Street by the railroad tracks, and this old building, which is kind of got by the wayside, was the original co-op. It was one of the 2 larger grocery markets in the town of Norco. Today we only have Griards, but then whatever. But this was the co-op, and it was owned by the people in the town. And if you actually bought into it, you got paid dividends for buying your groceries there. It was called the Norco Co-op. All right, we're still here on Good Hope Street, and this is what used to be, believe it or not, very here on the right was called Charlie's Barbershop. Charlie and Louis Alack and the Marino law offices were all in this lower part of the building there for many, many years. As we scan by here and we get to the larger building, this was the first of the buildings the American Bank occupied in Norco. And they did it for many, many years. Then after that, when they moved, the parish consumed this building and they turned it into a library. So it was a library. Now today, I think it's just a office building, and that's how it's used today, because the library is built a brand new one on Apple Street, Norco. As we go from Good Old Street toward Apple Street, this was the original Bank of St. Charles. Then we had the St. Charles Pharmacy with Dr. Allen's office in the back. We had Norco Cleaners here and Wilson's Jeweler. But after these stores, after Wilson's Jewelry right here closed, it became Rohan's Restaurant. When the pharmacy closed, it became Camille's clothing store. He had to open it up right there and everything. And none of these places are here anymore. We're still on the River Road, ready to come to Apple Street. This is probably the oldest buildings in the town of Norco. And let me tell you what they were. Starting right here on the corner, this was Happy Jack's. It was a bar room kind of get together where all the guys after work came and had a nice beer and everything. As we scanned through the building right here, right in the middle of it, believe it or not, this is where the first Western Auto in Norco was. Earl Cupid opened the store right here and had everything that Western Auto sold, from hardware and all kind of stuff like that and everything. And as we get to the corner building, this was called Sharky's Tavern. It was another get together for guys to get a little brew or something after work and all that. It did, after Sharky's closed down, Gal Weber opened it as a little restaurant, but it really didn't make it good going serving lunches for the workers at lunchtime. But it didn't go. And after that, Russell Rebo opened a bar room here that stayed open for a couple of years. As we fade back here again, where Western Auto was, it later became LaVetro's Barbershop. And they're no longer here anymore. The little buildings you're looking at here, and it's still standing, was Jack Mueller's Barbershop. It was just a one-chair shop, and that was the first barbershop in Norco. You could come up here and get all the gossip that was going on. Jack would kind of talk about everybody. One of his favorite customers to cut his hair was Father Haggerty, a Catholic priest. Father Haggerty would come up here, and other than that, we'd never see nobody else in there with Jack. Good old Jack Mueller. Okay, right here on Apple Street in front of Norco, this was the original American Bank building. Just like it there, just built, I guess, and it was there for many, many years. I'm not sure how many years, but today it's been taken over by H.C. Alexander, and is now they commuted and turned it into a funeral home, and that's what it is today. This blue building that you're looking at right now was the original location of Ike Lucas's hardware store, the first hardware store in Norco. It occupied most of the building, but on the very left side of the building was Ralph Miller's law offices, our state representative and everything. But that's the same exact building. We're still up here in the 100 block of Apple Street, and this was a very, very busy location in the town of Norco. When I was a very small kid, there was one of the new car dealers, Norman Motors. He sold Dodges and Plymouths right here in this location and had a mechanic shop. It later became, after he sold it, became into a filling station, a Shell station, which was right here for many, many, many years. Then they came and built this little building out here, and it was a little food service place, a little quick food where you could get sandwiches and all that and run. Now it's a parking lot and a Mardi Gras store. So there has been a lot of businesses right here in this location. We're right here on the corner of First Street and Apple in Norco. Now this is not the original building, but right here at this location was the first location of Loop's Supermarket and Meat Market, I guess what hell, run by the Loop family. It was a little white cinder block building that used to be right here, and it was actually the first grocery store along with the co-op. That was the two original grocery stores in the town of Norco. We're right here on the corner of St. Charles and First Street in Norco. And right now you're looking at the American Bank building. This is their newest building that was just banked. But back in many years, when I was a teenager, this is where the Pink Potato was. This is where all us young kids came on weekends for dances and everything in the summertime. It was a large, wide open hall, which housed wedding receptions and stuff like that and everything. But it was called the Pink Potato. And with bands like the Rhythm Six, the Mike Monica Trio and all them would play there and have good times way back in the 60s. What you see here on St. Charles Street in the 100 block, this was the original location of the second Western Auto. The first one was up on on River Road, right close on the corner. And when that store wasn't big enough, Earl Cupid built this building, and this was the location of the second Western Auto store. In this location, it's not here anymore, but what used to be right here was a laundromat, just like by the car wash over there, and they actually had a little handy pack and Dim's donut shops, and made good, good, all kind of donuts, good fresh donuts and everything. Was right here in this location, but it ain't here no more. What you see here now is the location of the only Ben Franklin store that we ever had in Norco. Nick DiGirolamo had a little building built right here, and it was like Ben Franklin 5 and dime stuff store, where you could buy knickknacks and all kind of stuff right here for a long time. But it ain't here no more. Here in the 200 block of Apple Street, this was the second location of Loop's Grocery. The first one on the corner got to be too small and everything, so the Loop family purchased this property and built this building. This is the exact building as it still stands today. This was Loop's Grocery, the second location in Norco. We right here by the railroad track on Apple Street. This is going to be a little bit hard to picture because you see absolutely nothing. But this was the location of the Tasty Freeze. It was Norco's only little ice cream malt shop or something that you could come here and get sundaes and banana splits and all that and everything. And all the kids would hang out in the parking lot around it and everything. It was a good, happy spot. I know today we're right here on 3rd Street, right by the railroad track, and all you see is a nice grassy lawn. But this was the location of Corinne's Restaurant and Hotel. It was a nice sit-down restaurant that you could go in and order meals in and sit down and eat. And she had the second floor, which is the number of apartments that she rented out for when locals would come to Norco for the plants to have a place to stay for that, and she would rent it out. This was run by the Macmillan family. We're still on Apple Street, and this is the 300 block of Apple Street and everything. And right now, this building, when it was first opened, was Cliff Brady's TV repair. In the old days when you used to get your TVs repaired and not just swap them out, right next to Todd's. And this was owned by Cliff Brady. Today it was a beauty shop and all that, but this is the original building. We're on Apple Street right up here adjacent to the airline. This blue building is a new building, but it was a older building, and this was DeRoche's Marine, where they sold outboards and boats and all that adjacent, to go right by the spillway. So it was that for many years. When they did close down, Wade Martin did open a body shop in here, and it was Wade's Body Shop. And that was this location right here on Apple Street. We're on the north side of the airline highway in Norco, and this is the opening to where Dr. Clayton was. He was the only house that was ever north of the airline where somebody lived in Norco. He was a doctor. His office was in his house. You would drive down this road, and he had a real nice big house back there. But old Dr. Clayton right here in Norco. We're up here on the airline highway by Whitey Holmes' Shell gas stations. But right behind his station where his warehouse was, used to be Airline Auto Repair. Probably one of the only auto repair shops in Norco we first had, run by Wayne Beadle. It was here for many years, so if you had to get your car repaired or a tire fixed, you came to see Wayne Beadle up here on the airline highway. This building, as you look at it today, is the original building where Lusto Ford, their second building here in Norco. We showed you the other one on the corner of Goodall Street. When they built a new building, this was the new location for Lusto Ford right here in Norco. So this is one of the 3 dealerships that sold new cars right here in Norco in the past 100 years. This is the location of Spillway Bar. It's now a coffee house, but it was originally built here for the longest for you to get a drink on from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. But that is the original building, the good old Spillway Bar. We're here on Apple Street by the railroad track, and you see Bosco's, which was with her. Before it was Bosco's, it was Payne Construction Company, that you could come here and buy lumber. They had a concrete plant, for mixing concrete. Very good construction company, to help you, whatever you want to build and everything. Here in the 500 block of Apple Street, this is L.J. Idell's store. This is probably the oldest continuous running store in the town of Norco. Mr. Idell opened the store up in 1929, I was told. And it was originally a little small frame building, and his warehouse was an 18-wheeler trailer where he kept all the stuff in. The building you see today, I think, was built in the 50s, and the store was run by Mr. Louis Idell, then continued by his son Harold Idell, and today run by grandson Michael Idell. One of the, like I say, a real, true, long-time business of Norco. You see just an open lot right here, there's nothing. But back in time, right here on the 500 block of Apple Street, this was Jimmy Poe's speed and spray shop. He actually had some gas pumps in the front, but he would help you work on your car, and he was big into kind of like racing cars and everything. It was just a nice shop for the young guys who wanted to, work on their cars and make them fast in the olden days. Y'all can relate to that. We're way in Norco, all the way up by the Spillway Levee. And this is Norco Elementary School, one of the 4 schools that have been in Norco since the town has been here. The school here, let me take you back when I went to school. We actually went to Norco Primary, which we'll be showing you that building in this video also, 1st through 4th grade. Then we came back here, this was from the 5th through the 8th grade at Norco Elementary. And then when you finished that, you went on to Destrehan High School or Bethune High School, wherever you live. But this school was built like in the 60s, one of the best school systems in the state. On Spruce Street, you're now looking at Sacred Heart Elementary School, which is now closed. It was built in the 60s also. Some of the local people, Catholic religion, decided they wanted their kids to have a Catholic education, and Sacred Heart made an elementary school here. It was kindergarten through 8th grade, and I think it closed 2 or 3 years ago, but the school is still in place here today. You're looking at a nice grass lot, but this is where the Sacred Heart Catholic Church used to be. I was married at the church that was right here, and when they built the new church in the back, this church here was hauled away by truck, so they loaded up, and it's an open lot, and this lot is now owned by the American Legion as a parking lot and everything. But this is where the original Sacred Heart of Jesus Catholic Church was. We're right here on the corner of 4th Street and Barack in Norco. This was the location of the H.C. Alexander Funeral Home for many, many, many years. Maybe about 10, 12 years ago, it caught fire and burnt, and they actually tore it down, and they moved into the American Bank up on Apple Street. This was one of the original businesses in the town of Norco. This is the original building of Miller's store. You see there's 2 doors in the front. It was actually divided. The side closest to us here on the right was a grocery store that he ran, and on the other side was like an appliance store that he ran 2 stores at one time. So it's kind of funny, depending who came in to buy something, it's the store that he would go through to do his business. Mr. Miller, one of the oldest stores in Norco, and this is the exact same building. Now today, as we're here on Apple Street, right by the track, across the road from where the Tasty Freeze was, this was a nice building, it had a lot of history. It started off when I first came here, it was a baker shop. Nice, good, fresh donuts and all kind of thing. And adjacent to it was Broussard's barber shop, which was stayed there for the longest. When the donut shop closed after many, many years, Norco got his first fried chicken place. Danny's Fried Chicken was right here. Ross Brosen came there and opened that store, and good old Danny's Fried Chicken and all that was gone. And then after that, it really got closed, and they even used it for like a cleaners and everything, a shop. It was a big white cinder block building, but the building has been torn down. But this was a very, very busy location right here in Norco. What you're looking here on Apple Street now, this is where the Ace Lumber Company was. Brown and Jones Durang ran this for many, many years. All the wood and supplies and hardware that you needed for the town, this was Ace Hardware. Right here on Apple Street, this is the original Norco school, Norco Primary, where it was 1st grade through 4th. I attended the school, all 4 grades right here. This is one, and there are adjacent buildings in the parish identical to this. I think it was built in the 30s or something, way back when Norco had just got started. And everybody in Norco came to school in this building with Miss Schiffner. Miss Schiffner was the first principal. Right on the corner of 1st and Apple right here in Norco, this was the original location of the Norco Gas Company. Mr. D.D. Freelou had this when he first started. It was the home of Norco Gas, Dixie Gas, and Norco Construction, all worked out of this area. It was later sold to and changed company names to Louisiana Gas, and even today it's now Atmos Energy. But that's what was happening in this corner. It used to be a big white block building, it was old building, the old gas company. Today we're right here on the corner of River Road and Apple, and we're looking at Southland Fire and Safety Equipment. But before then, way back in time, was a big clothing store called Paul Richards. And he had all kind of clothing, from selling suits and shirts and pants and women's apparel, shoes. He would rent tuxedos for all of us to go to the proms and everything. It was here for a long, long time. The little adjacent building right here, this little brick building to it, was his son. His son became an attorney, Paul Richards Jr., and this was his little office that he was an attorney in Norco for many years. Okay, this open area here in the Diamond subdivision of Norco is the location where Bethune High School used to be. A very good school, Bethune Bulldogs they were. It closed in 1969, and now all the kids the African-American kids who would have went to Bethune now go to Dere Aint High School, which is one of the top-rated schools in the state. We're very proud of our school system here in Norco. As you're looking at this gray cinder block building right here on Baraka Street, this is the original office of the St. Charles Herald, the little local paper that came out and covered the river parishes. This was their office. They put it together and printed it right here on Baraka Street. Original building of the St. Charles Herald. This open area that you see right here with the driveway was the location of Ruiz's appliance store. He had apartments upstairs that he rented, and when we first moved to Norco, that was the first place that I stayed in Norco, was one of his apartments. But he did work on appliance repair and everything, and he was right here next to Ike Lucas' store on Apple Street. Right here on St. Charles Street, right off the River Road. This is where Jackson's Vending was. Charlie and Vita Jackson had their business for a long time, and that was through all the Coke machines and the can machines throughout the business and the plants and all that they had to restock that. So this is where they operated many years ago. Today it's just all closed up. This is right alongside the railroad track, and you don't see nothing but gravel. But back in time, this was the Norco Depot. And the train would actually stop here. You could catch a train, pick up stuff that was shipped to you that would come to the depot and everything. But probably the highlight of it was when they used to run what we call the LSU Special. People could come here and they would stop, and the train would pick them up and take them to Baton Rouge to watch the Tigers play, and after the game run a train ride back home. You could drink all you want. You didn't have to worry about driving. But hurricane took the building away, and it's no longer here. But this is where it was.